Good day everyone, I am Kyle David B. Atienza. I am tasked to report on Module 9, the Organization and Management Subsystem of Distance Education, specifically on the topic of staffing, faculty readiness, and support. We all know that faculty members are vital in learning. They create the opportunities and bonds that link students, the content, and engagement with them. They also represent our institutions and programs to the public, and their support is essential to success in distance learning, and therefore they must be considered in planning the strategic effort for distance learning. If you can still remember my introductory post in our discussion forum, I have mentioned that I was recently promoted to the position of Senior Education Program Specialist, handling the Human Resource Development section here in the Department of Education, Schools Division of Marinduque. And in that section, what we do is we provide human resource interventions based on the needs of our employees. We specifically craft career and development paths for all of them. We also provide scholarships, rewards, and welfare to all of our employees. Now, my section provides utmost support for all of our teaching and non-teaching personnel for them to develop and adapt to changing times just like our learners. Now, this topic is very close to me because of this new position that I hold in the Department of Education. So for this topic, we have the following objectives. First is to discuss concerns that surround staffing in distance education institutions. Next is to explain the different faculty support that will ensure their readiness. And the last one is to recognize the importance of staff readiness, support, and assessment in an organization. For staffing and faculty readiness is one of the major concerns in distance education. This involves hiring, training, and retention of its teaching staff, its faculty and tutors, and its content specialists involved in the course development. One of the most important tasks for the administrators in a distance education institution is to identify that from the existing staff or otherwise, we may recruit and train new staff in order for them to run the program. These staff include subject experts who may provide targeted content for learning materials, instructors who will teach these materials once quality assured, and of course our technology experts and administrators. It also says here that teaching and learning acts in distance education are different from those in a traditional university. We must always remember that applying the same hiring and retention criteria as those used in conventional or the face-to-face classes or universities may not be fair to the teaching staff of open universities. Conventional classroom setups are more focused on facilitating learning in a face-to-face classes manner, while distance education institutions may provide more weight or emphasis on the fluency of its employees on the use of technology in the delivery of courses. While distance education teachers are somehow different from conventional teachers, this should not translate into the idea that they are less competent than those in the conventional setup. A battle between sustaining high quality of learning interactions and costings is evident in distance education. Now, this is another challenge that concerns our administrators and distance education institutions with staffing, whether they must appoint full-time or part-time employees or a combination of each. In general, the higher the ratio of part-time to full-time staff, the lower the average cost of providing the course to each student. If you can still remember my report from Module 5 on the Anderson's interaction equivalency theorem, I stated there that the higher the quality and quantity of interactions, the better learning our students may receive. And because distance education institution teachers can only attend to a limited number of students, these institutions may need to hire more teachers to have more interactions with learners. Hence, these institutions will have more costings and it may no longer be practical. It becomes more feasible to provide a good student-instructor ratio if part-time staff can be engaged in this instructor role. Having part-time staff also allows the organization or the institution to adapt its curriculum more quickly to changing needs than may be possible if it has a staff lack into a curriculum. In general, therefore, hiring instructors on a part-time basis makes for them quality as well as greater cost effectiveness. But it is a policy difficult to implement in many distance education institutions because resources were already invested in these part-time instructors. Of course, kung pipili man tayo ng mga part-time instructors, we have to invest on training them. We have to provide proper incentives to them. Kaya kung magpapabago-bago din tayo ng instructors from time to time, hindi din siya magiging practical for this distance education institutions. Kasi nga, nag-invest na tayo sa kanila and then after some time, papalitan na naman ulit sila. For the faculty readiness, Savory in 2005 noted that faculty members in a distance education institution must be vocal. Now, these 5 letters have its meanings. First, be visible. The distance education teacher must have or create a sense of presence in a variety of communication channels. Next is organize. They must provide detailed instructions, orderly content, and specific expectations in the course and other required activities. These are just some of the qualities that we have already seen with our instructors, Doc Mel, in EDDE 201, wherein all of our course materials are already provided, but we cannot access them in any time that we want. These can only be accessed in a specific time frame, and this is one example of having an orderly content. And there are also specific expectations that were set in our first week of classes. For letter C, we have compassionate. Our distance education instructor must build a sense of trust among the learning group to overcome the potential of isolation in the distance education setup. I have specifically experienced this during my diploma in science teaching, which I have also took here in the UPOU, wherein I am the only student in that course. And thankfully, my faculty in charge in those subjects is very compassionate towards me. Even if I'm the only one in the course, they have managed to build trust in order for me to not feel isolated. Next is A, or analytical. They design multiple types of assessments and they do not rely solely on one type of assessment. These type of tests are somehow evident in public schools wherein we only focus on one type of assessment. We are more focused on having multiple choice type of questions rather than having a variety of assessments for our learners. And also, L, lead by example. They provide constructive feedback and model desirable learning strategies. We must also remember that even if we have these 5 qualities, this do not suggest that the instructors who do not exhibit these attributes cannot be successful in teaching courses in a distance education institution, only that they are likely to find the endeavor more challenging. If the selected faculty are making the transition from conventional classroom setup into distance education for the first time, they will need to understand that distance education environment is different in some ways from the one with which they are more familiar with. For our faculty support, the readiness of an organization may be ensured through various faculty support initiatives such as training and technology support. Assessment and monitoring of faculty must be done to provide the most suitable faculty support and interventions. In the reference that I have used, there are 4 types of possible interventions which the distance education institution may provide to its faculty. First is, of course, training. Faculty training in distance education often begins and ends with workshops on the use of applicable delivery technologies. Instructional strategies that are found to be effective can also be topics of faculty training. Now, trainings for distance education faculty are often provided through online platforms, putting the instructors in the role of online learners, while the workshop leader models effective learning in the online setup. Training topics in distance education faculty members may also include unique attributes of distance education learners, pedagogies in distance education, online facilitation of discussion, assessment in distance education, and of course the technologies that they may use in the delivery of courses. We must also always remember that training must always be needs based. This is one principle that I have learned the hard way in my new position, wherein we cannot implement trainings that we just want to implement. We must always have a basis for all of the training that we provide for our personnel. Um in the Department of Education specifically, we use the compile development plans, which is the part 4 of the individual performance commitment and review form, or the IPCRF. We use those results from the part 4, or the individual development plan, to create a team development plan and then a division learning and development plan. These plans are the set of trainings that we will provide to our personnel, both teaching and non-teaching, for the whole school year. Now, again, all of those trainings are needs-based. Another type of intervention which may be provided to faculties is the assistance on course delivery and development. This is specific for course development specialists, and the assistance on the course development and delivery shall be given by professional course developers. In the development and delivery of courses, course development specialists may be tasked with guiding instructors who are creating courses or creating some of the course components, or developing the entire course on their own to be taught by the instructor. These ready-made courses may be locked down by those who created them, to prevent revisions that could damage course outcomes or create inconsistencies among multiple sections. This is what I have mentioned earlier, that we cannot access openly all of the resources for all of our modules. There are specific time frames which wherein these course modules may be opened. This is one way of protecting course manuals or course references, so as not to damage the course outcomes or create inconsistencies. Another intervention is, of course, technology support. Since courses in distance education are offered through means of technology, an effective and readily available technology support staff must always be present. Now, as discussed by my groupmates in the report, some of our distance education institutions can provide essential technical support to both faculty and students. But for most of the distance education institutions, this may not be cost effective. This is why technology support must still be given to faculty and student members of the institution. Though some institutions have separate technology support staff, faculty must also be well versed in utilizing technology for course delivery. The last interventions which may be provided to our faculty based on the references that I have used is workload compensation and reward system. In the current position that I hold, this is also one of our key result areas, specifically on the reward systems. Faculty members in a distance education institution often commit long periods of time to develop course materials. Distance education managers must work with faculty unions and administrators to provide better reward systems for members. Teaching at a distance also presents sensitive questions related to faculty workload, compensation, and especially in promotion and tenure. Faculty are very concerned about the amount of time required to develop online courses, as well as the additional time that they have to commit to teach these manuals. Many faculty members feel that developing and teaching distance education courses should rate additional compensation, or as an alternative, they may seek release time, or pwedeng bawasan yung mga courses na pwede nilang ituro. But if these faculty members opt to avail of the bought out time, the distance education institution must also find another faculty who must teach those courses left behind. Now, if the distance education institutions are to hire new faculty members, or to put overtime or overload units to another faculty member, then they must have additional compensation for these faculty members, which is no longer cost effective for our distance education institutions. As I have mentioned earlier, if we have provided faculty interventions for all of our members, there must also be monitoring and assessment. Once interventions are provided to faculty members, there must be an assessment of their current progress and continuing needs to develop and or improve the previously provided interventions. I don't know if this is also evident in the institution that you work in or you work with, but in the Department of Education, monitoring and assessment is often done mid-year and then at the year end. And during those monitoring and assessments, our faculty or our teaching and non-teaching personnel are required to create uh, their individual development plans, which then be used by the division office to create a team development plan and a division learning and development plan. So that's it. Those are the possible interventions which may be provided for our teachers and faculties to ensure their readiness. Here are my references for this report, and then these are our points for discussion for this topic. First, the lack of teacher support was found as one of the reasons why public school teachers in the Philippines opt to resign, transfer to another profession, or work abroad. Among the discussed points for intervention on faculty support, which among those points should the Philippine educational government put more focus on? Another is, what do you think is the importance of assessing the performance and needs of teachers? How can this regular assessment ensure the delivery of quality education for all learners? Once again, that's my report on faculty readiness and staffing. Thank you so much for listening.